In April of 1912, the largest moving object ever built by human hands prepared to cross the Atlantic. They called her unsinkable. For one wealthy young family stepping aboard, she was the beginning of a dream. Within 5 days, she would become their grave. Hudson and Bess Allison were young, rich, and radiant with the future. They traveled first class from Montreal with their 2 children, Lorraine, a bright little girl of 2, and Trevor, a baby not yet 1 year old, carried by his nursemaid. They had everything. They had no idea what the ocean had planned. Aboard the Titanic, the Allisons lived like royalty. Crystal, mahogany, and electric light. Lorraine toddled the grand corridors while baby Trevor slept in the care of his nurse. 400 miles of black water stretched ahead of them, colder than any of them could imagine. The sea that night was flat as glass and freezing. 6 separate warnings of ice had reached the ship that day. Every one of them was set aside. The Titanic steamed into the dark at nearly full speed, and the family slept, unaware that the horror had already begun to take shape ahead of them. Welcome to the world of strange. 11:40 at night. Out of the blackness, a mountain of ice. The turn came too late. Far below, the impact was almost gentle, a long, grinding shudder that ran the length of the hull. In the Allisons' cabin, it was barely a whisper. Hudson stirred. Bess reached for her children. Most of the sleeping passengers felt nothing at all. But 300 feet below the waterline, the sea was already pouring in. For an hour, no one told them the truth. Stewards moved through the corridors with strange, careful smiles, asking passengers to dress warmly and come up to the boat deck. It was only a precaution, they said. The Allisons wrapped their children against the cold and climbed toward the open air, still believing they would laugh about this in the morning. On deck, the illusion shattered. The ship was tilting. Crewmen were swinging out the lifeboats, and there were nowhere near enough of them, room for barely half the souls aboard. Panic moved through the crowd like a current, and in that chaos, the Allison family began to come apart. In the confusion, the nurse carried baby Trevor into a lifeboat and was lowered away toward the sea. But no one told Bess. She was left on the deck with Hudson and little Lorraine, not knowing where her infant son had gone, whether he was safe or lost somewhere in the crowd, or already in the water. What happened next is the heart of the horror. Bess Allison would not get into a lifeboat. She would not leave without knowing where her baby was. Again and again, she was offered a seat. And again she refused, dragging little Lorraine back into the crowd to search. She could not abandon one child to save herself and the other. One by one the boats dropped away, many of them half empty. The window was closing, and still she searched. By now, the bow was sliding under. The deck rose beneath their feet at a sickening angle. Hudson stayed with his wife and daughter to the end, the 3 of them together as the great ship groaned and the lights flickered. The last lifeboat was gone. There was nowhere left to run. 2:20 in the morning. The lights died. The Titanic broke and fell into the deep. What followed was the true horror of that night. More than 1,000 people were left in water so cold it stopped the heart within minutes. The air filled with the sound survivors could never forget. A great wailing cry from the darkness. And then, slowly, one by one, the voices went silent, until there was nothing but the sea. At dawn, the Carpathia arrived and gathered the survivors from their lifeboats. Around 1,500 were gone. 700 lived. And as the names were counted, one question hung over the Allisons like a shadow. Of that bright young family of 4, had anyone survived the night? One did. Baby Trevor, carried off by his nurse, was found alive aboard the Carpathia, safe, warm, and utterly alone. But Hudson, Bess, and little Lorraine were never among the rescued. Lorraine became the only child in all of first class to die that night. Lost because her mother could not choose between her children. Hudson's body was recovered from the sea and brought home. His wife and daughter were never found. And the child who lived, Trevor, the baby saved by a nurse's arms, would die young himself, just 17 years later, carrying the strange weight of being the one who survived. A single family, a single night, and a horror the ocean has never given back. This has been the world of strange.